Hi, I'm Charlotte. You are watching The Ugly Atheist, and I wanted to talk about the election on Tuesday. As many of you probably were, I was glued to my television, or my phone rather, watching the unfolding of the presidential election on Tuesday, and I'm feeling fairly positive about the future of this country in the coming years as a result of Trump winning. And I wanted to talk a little about why I kind of like Donald Trump, and I did vote for him. And as an atheist, I am also a humanist. Not that all atheists are humanists, but they do tend to go hand in hand, which means I value human life. And Donald Trump was the only candidate out of the ones that were running who spoke very clearly a message of anti-war. In fact, in a CNN town hall meeting, I think last year sometime, or was it earlier this year maybe, they tried to corner him into picking a side between Russia and Ukraine. And he leveled with them. He said, look, I just want people to stop dying. And if that isn't the most humanist response from a presidential candidate, it just had me floored. I remember when he had his first term in office, and just before COVID hit, how I was living in Utah at the time, and the gas prices, it was close to like $1.90, $2 a gallon. And that's for the expensive stuff that I was getting for the car I had at the time. And I remember how businesses were booming. There's new businesses opening up, and everywhere I drove, I would see now hiring, now hiring, now hiring. And that was just in my local community there in Utah, but I think it was also that way. And when I came to visit my family in California, I saw signs everywhere saying now hiring, now hiring. There just seemed to be, it was like nothing I had ever seen before, to use Trump's lexicon. Donald Trump is the only candidate who seems to be wanting to wind down the wars, bring our troops home. And whenever there was over the past 4 years during Biden's administration, whenever there was some kind of natural disaster that was threatening lives and homes, he did what he could to help the first responders, and delivering water, I think, to Flint. Was it Flint, Michigan, or it was another area that had, I think it was some kind of damage from a natural disaster. I don't remember, but he delivered his Trump water, which I think is hilarious, but hey, they got water, and Biden didn't do that. And also I felt that Trump was to me represented by Toto from Wizard of Oz. He was, if you remember the movie Wizard of Oz, Toto was the kind of annoying, snarling, nasty little dog barking, and he even was accused of biting someone at the beginning of the movie. He was a general nuisance, but at the most critical point in the movie, when the other members of the group were shivering and cowering before the great and powerful Oz, Toto made a beeline for the curtain because he knew exactly what was going on. Well, he didn't know exactly. He suspected, or he saw something that seemed odd. He pulled back the curtain just enough to reveal something that should never have been seen by anyone else. That was something that was trying to be covered up. And that's why I think Toto reminds me of Donald Trump in that regard, where Trump, in just merely existing and trying to lead the country, he accidentally pulled the curtain back on what some call the deep state. I don't know what you'd call it, but sort of the powers that be that work behind the scenes. he kind of exposed that a little bit, just enough to where a lot of us that were paying attention were like, wait a minute. But that all being said, I do have some concerns about the presidency, mostly in the area of RFK Jr. I absolutely love RFK Jr. I love his vision for this country. I love his passion for healthy nutrition to our children and to the rest of us as well. My hesitation is that in order to upheave the entire food and drug or food industry and pharmaceutical industry, that's going to take probably more than 4 years, first of all. Secondly, it's going to, at least in the short term, when you totally gut the FDA and USDA and any other agencies responsible for our food manufacturing and farming and growing and producing or processing, that's gonna cost a lot of money, and that's gonna be paid for. It's gonna be felt at the market by our citizens. I can't imagine, for example, if you make everything organically grown without pesticides and on sustainable practices or farming methods and with nutrient-rich soils. That seems like, at the scales we need to feed our nation, that seems like almost an impossibility. And in the short term, that will definitely raise prices of food. Hopefully that increase will be offset by lower energy costs, so that transportation will at least be dirt cheap, and maybe that will help offset that cost. But I say that, but I understand also that RFK Jr. has had lots of experience in this and dealing with these industries, fighting them in court, winning against them. I don't know if his victories in court led to any substantial processing changes or manufacturing changes or methodology changes in the food industry or pharmaceutical industry. But I imagine that he has a superb insight into how these organizations work and what exactly would happen if everyone switched to organic, for example, or natural pharma. And that's the other thing. The pharmaceutical industry, as corrupt as they are, there is a lot of actual science behind a lot of the medications that we have on the market. And so to replace those with alternative medicine, I don't know if I can get behind that. I mean, I think alternative medication can be added to some things that a physician would prescribe, but I think, like drinking or eating garlic supplements, for example, is not the same as other blood pressure reducing medications. And I'm worried that people are going to get the wrong idea and possibly harm themselves, trying to take the alternative medications. But that remains to be seen. Again, I tend to have a trust for RFK Jr. I think he knows what he's doing. Every time I've heard him speak, he sounds super competent. But that's also coming from my own personal place of ignorance. I don't know much about the industries that he is confronting, so I don't know. He sounds competent to me, but all of that being said, I am excited about the team so far that Trump has compiled. He's got, it's almost like a superhero team with Tulsi Gabbard, who I greatly admire, and Elon Musk, who, my gosh, what better person to have on your team with regard to rocketry and a vision for the future and the future of not just Americans, but of mankind. I think is going to be unstoppable, and what he can add to the Space Force even. I don't know if he's going to be positioned in that capacity to enhance the Space Force that Trump started in his first term. And then we have RFK Jr., of course, as we talked about. But it seems like there's going to be some positive changes in terms of sort of confronting the corruption that we see so plainly now in our government and in Congress and the House of Representatives and the way we do business. Hopefully they'll do something about insider trading. Like, no congressperson should get that wealthy from just being a congressperson. I mean, I think there's definitely some shenanigans going on there. Yeah, overall, I know Trump has his shortcomings. I don't trust the religious right at all. I think they have the capacity to be every bit as authoritarian as the extreme alt-leftists. But I think it's just a natural human tendency when you're in power, then sort of the extreme fringes of your movement tend to start to raise up and make things difficult for the rest of us. But as far as things are at this moment in time, the right side of the spectrum, political spectrum, seem to be on the right side of history in terms of I think the party's clearly switched. All the things that the Democrats used to stand for in the 60s, and RFK Jr. pointed this out, are now being championed by the Republican Party, which is bizarre, but that's the right side of history. So you can't, if you find yourself at odds with free speech and with world peace, you are misguided. I'm looking forward to the next 4 years. I hope that Donald Trump stays safe and his family stays safe. Same with RFK Jr. and the rest of the team. I hope they all get the security details they need that are trustworthy, and that the deep state, as they call it, doesn't try anything to undermine the amazing and exciting plans that are being expressed by Donald Trump. I know he recently said he wants to kind of bring back, it's not the World Fair, but the, I guess, National Fair or National Expo, where every state brings in their best and brightest and their technological advances, their athletes, and they all showcase. I think he wants to do it in Iowa, and maybe that's where the old site for this sort of thing used to be. I know a lot of you are probably upset that Kamala did not win the election, and that's understandable. So I definitely don't want you to feel upset. I think it's going to be good for you as well this next 4 years, and I think you'll be pleasantly surprised by the kind of success that you're going to see in your life when some of these policies that Trump is touting are put into play. Like removing income tax, for example. That's going to give you a fatter paycheck each week, or every other week, whenever you get paid. So don't despair. I think it's going to be good for everybody, and we'll see what the next 4 years brings. And I'll leave it there. I'm Charlotte. You are watching The Ugly Atheist. If you like this kind of content, please like and subscribe, and I will see you next week.